So just to give you a little bit of context for why we're going through this social media sales training, one of the things about fitness in terms of a market for you to capitalize on is that there are so many people that are at this phase of awareness about, nutrition coaching, personal training, all this is the way that they can lose weight. And they are being bombarded with advertisements and offers and really like these outsized promises that a lot of people who have seen these messages that have tried to lose weight or tried to gain muscle in the past have seen these outsized promises and not actually had them delivered on. They're starting to get jaded. So the people that we're talking to, cliche type of messages and direct response marketing where you can put up a message and people are going to go to your link and read a sales page and buy whatever you have to offer, those days are kind of gone unless you are like the best copywriter in the world and you really are so dialed into your avatar that you can sell with a link. Like that's just out the window. That's why our conversion event for one-on-one coaching is that initial call, that enrollment conversation. And when we're talking about the front end of how you get somebody there, even getting somebody onto that initial call, as we've talked about before, is difficult because you're not the only person that's offering a free consultation. Some of the bigger companies, they are selling with a link purely based off their reputation. So anybody in the CrossFit space, you probably know that WAG, RP, all of them, they use an e-commerce style of checkout to get people started with coaching. You have to actually sign up and pay before you can talk to anybody. We're not doing it that way. But a lot of other coaches and a lot of other offerings, there is a free initial call, a free initial consultation, something like that. So there's not as much value in it. And that's why we need to use conversations to actually lead somebody to it. And you don't want to just have one of those conversations like with social media. You probably get these, I get these all the time, where you get a random friend request and then somebody immediately, if you accept, sends you a message cold pitching you on their offer without having ever dug down and understood what it is you need or what it is you do. The amount of people who have hit me up and been like, hey, I see that you're a personal trainer, something like that I'm not actually, and then try to pitch me on their thing is ridiculous. That's the wrong way to go about it. And that's why today I'm going to teach you the right way to go about it. And you'll see that I'm really big on mental frameworks whenever you're going into sales conversations. So we have the mental frameworks for actually going into an initial call, and we have similarly mental frameworks that we use going into social media messaging conversations. So a lot of these are almost affirmation based. You'll also see that I love affirmations. It's a good way to reprogram your identity so that you can be successful. So the mental framework here is you're a nutrition coach who is busy getting your clients amazing results, not someone who is desperate and always available. So you don't want to get into a conversation with someone that leads nowhere and that they feel like they can bounce ideas off of you, or that if they ask you a question, you give them such a detailed response like you would give to your clients. When we are getting into these conversations, we want to, as you'll see, quickly develop rapport, figure out what they need, and dig down to what their pain is. So you're not desperate and always available. So if somebody's constantly trying to bounce ideas off you, you need to transition that. And the way that you do that is the next mental framework, that you are a leader and a concerned mentor, not somebody desperate for clients and not someone looking for a new buddy. Okay. So you don't want to go down, I have this in the next thing, you don't want to go down the rapport rabbit hole. That is not the way that you want to approach these conversations. You want to be quickly digging into the pain. All right. And so again, I'm not going to be able to see it right now, but if you know and you remember offhand the 3 rules of sales that I've talked about, that I've learned from my mentors, then I want you to type it in the chat box so that when I end this, I can look and be like, oh, thank God, everybody here actually remembers what I'm talking about. But here, the mental framework for these social media conversations is that your only goal is to uncover the pain and see if you have the solution to their pain. And then and only then, if you think that based off where they want to go, based off where they are, that you are the person that can bridge that gap, then you want to offer them a call. Sorry for the drilling. So the way that we're going to go through this, and I'll show you an example where I quickly got to the pain and then transitioned it to a call, is you want to start with a rapport. just open up the conversation casually. I'll give you an example in a second, but you're not going to go down the rapport rabbit hole. If you are in the same group and, it's a parents group, let's say, and then you are constantly, for a day sharing pictures of your kids and, stories, that's the rapport rabbit hole. We don't want to go down there. Make one point of rapport and then dive in, just like these enrollment conversations. Like I said, establish quick rapport. Hey, how's your week been? Awesome. Pre-frame. Create that frame that you're the leader, you're a concerned mentor. So these are a few different ways to think about how to establish rapport, depending on where the connection came from. So if you've gone through the social compounding training, based off of posting, that based off of, sorry for the drilling, but based off your posting, based off your group activity, based off these micro commitment posts you're making, that there are going to be ways that you're connecting with people, adding friends on Facebook, connections on LinkedIn, wherever your ideal client happens to be. But if they're from a group, whether it's a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group, you might add them as a friend and then open up the conversation like, hey, Matt, always great connecting with other people from the Precision Nutrition group. What brings you here? What brings you to the Precision Nutrition group? If it's inbound, so if somebody follows you on Instagram, if they friend request you on Facebook, if it's a connection request, you might say, hey, Matt, thanks for reaching out. What inspires you to connect? All right, that's going to open up the conversation. And if it's just cold, like if somebody just reacted to a post in a group or, somebody's reacted to something you do, you send a connection request, you follow them. If you're searching for hashtags on Instagram and cold reaching out to people, then it might be something like, hey, Matt, I saw your post about your New Year's resolution, whatever it happens to be. Say something about the post. Matt, I saw your post about your New Year's resolution. See that you're getting back into the gym. How's that been going for you? Something like that. Because that way you can form the rapport and potentially get to the pain. Now, if this is someone who's a current connection or somebody who's reacted to a post, like a comment in particular, you might be like, hey, Matt, how's, your weight loss going? If it was a weight loss post, something like that. Or, hey, Matt, how's your whatever going? So again, here, post about fat loss, you get a comment from someone that's like, oh, I needed to hear this. I get that all the time on my posts. Oh, I needed to hear this. How did you know what I was already thinking? That type of thing. So you can reach out and be like, hey, Brad, so how's your fat loss journey going? Or, hey, Brad, why did you need that? Like, what have you been struggling with? Or how did that land with you? Ask specific questions about the post content, maybe a follow-up question. That way you can also dig to the pain within the rapport or the conversation opening. Or you might even know their pain based off of their comment that they're making on the post. Now, if they're a current connection that you have and you're reaching out to them, I know Aaron, for example, who recently joined, he put up a post back in August, and a lot of his connections commented about, the post was about he's starting to do nutrition coaching. That was a while ago, and now he's actually put that open for business sign up. So anybody on that, if he's cold outreaching to them, it would just be like, hey, Betty, how have you been? Starting that out. And since he commented on the original post, people that probably ended up back in their feed, and they might even be like, oh, hey, Aaron, this actually happened. Hey, Aaron, so yeah, doing pretty good. What's the deal with your nutrition coaching? And then, you've actually got that opened up. Now, the thing about the rapport is when you ask these questions, the people in pain will probably divulge their pain. But either way, you need to dig. So phase 2 is to qualify these people and really dive into their pain and their goals. The mental frame here for the qualification is that you need to determine whether or not this person has goals you can help with. All right. So the example that you have here that I've put in is, I see it looks like you've been training. What are your fitness goals in the next 6 months? So for example, if you're searching a hashtag on Instagram and you're cold outreaching to somebody, this is the type of thing. Obviously, that's a volume play if you're going cold. We want to try to hit the low-hanging fruit first, but this is something you can do down the road. Another example, looked like you were interested in losing fat. What are your goals over the next 6 months? So if somebody's commenting on a fat loss post, something like that, after you've established the rapport, you want to ask a qualification question more like this, what are your goals over the next 6 months? When I'm talking to people who might be a good fit for this program, when I'm doing any messenger outreach, I'm asking people where they're at with their nutrition coaching business or how long they've been nutrition coaching. And that lets me know whether or not they're somebody that's qualified lead, because some people are still doing their nutrition certification when they friend request me or, react to one of my posts or even ask for some of the free resources that I offer. So that's a good thing to do, is just say like, oh, how long have you been training, whatever it happens to be. It's a good way to get some rapport and qualify them as well. Now, this is where things get juicy. You need to dig and disillusion them about the passive they're taking. So I'll show you an example of this that I have from Instagram in a little bit. But if you're asking them about their goals, which you should do in the qualification, what are your goals over the next 6 months? They tell you, oh, I'm looking to lose 20 pounds of fat. And then it might be something like, oh, nice. Do you have a plan to lose those 20 pounds of fat? I might have some insight for you. That is setting the frame of the concerned mentor and the leader. So if they say something like, yeah, I joined a gym, or I started counting macros, or I'm doing Weight Watchers, something like that, then that's where we disillusion them. Okay, if they're just on this one-dimensional plane of changing physically, then we need to disillusion them. As I talked about in the training in the course on nutrition-based life coaching and really providing that VIP experience and how to get people results for life, we obviously know that people need to not only change on the physical level, macros, training, sleep, stress reduction, all these things, the basic pillars that everybody talks about, but they also need to change their self-image, their identity, and all of these other things that act like a thermostat bringing them back to where they're at. So to disillusion them, you can say something like, oh, that's a bit of a risky strategy. If somebody's like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym. It's like, oh, that's a bit of a risky strategy, because it is. These people probably have joined a gym before, lost some weight, maybe they haven't lost weight, and this is just the only solution that they can possibly think of is I joined a gym. It's also a risky strategy because if they just joined a gym and they don't have a coach, then chances of them having long-term results are pretty low. So that's a bit of a risky strategy. And then you might say something like, do you mind if I give you some honest feedback about what it actually takes to lose 20 pounds? All right, because we want to ask their permission before just throwing unsolicited advice at them. All right, so you'll ask, do you mind? And then once they give you permission, they're open to what you have to say. And that's where we move into the paradigm shift. All right, this is phase 4. So you're going to take the plan that they have, like join a gym, show them why it doesn't work, and seed your process. All right, so this is our example, but something else that I want to say about this that's not on the slide is you want to take what they said, like going to the gym, and you want to future pace what going to the gym will lead to. So you might say something like, hey, Matt, so, most people end up joining a gym when they want to lose 20 pounds. But what actually ends up happening is that they're really excited for the first couple of weeks. They see a bit of progress, but then eventually they get bored with a routine that they found online, or, they hit a plateau working with a personal trainer and they're not really sure what's next. So they lose motivation and then progress stalls and they end up back where they're at. If you really want to, so this is starting to seed your process, if you really want to lose 20 pounds and keep it off, then you need to, and then you're giving them what they need to do, not how they need to do it, okay? So then all of a sudden you're saying something like, you do need to train and you do need to actually take your nutrition seriously so that you can change physically, but the thing that's been holding you back has been your mindset and your identity. In working with thousands of clients in our case, we see the common link between people who can lose weight and keep it off is boom. And then that shifts their paradigm. All right, so here's an example. Most people try to lose fat just focusing on physical changes, going to the gym, counting macros, getting more sleep, but they always end up back where they were when life happens. And that's because they make it hard to lose weight and keep it off. In order to make a sustainable transformation, you not only need to make the physical changes easy, but the real secret is the mindset shift that needs to occur. And I'll sometimes say something like, and this isn't just some random opinion, this is what I've seen working with thousands of clients. And then I'll say, does that make sense? All right. From there, they'll say something like, yeah, makes sense. Or they might ask you questions. Like for mine, it seeds curiosity. Like the real secret is the mindset shifts that need to occur. And they're most likely, most people will ask me, what are those mindset shifts? Or what do you mean by that? And then from there, then I'm going to say something along the lines of, oh, well, this is something obviously that we work with people on for months. It would take me typing thousands of words. Would you be open to a call? That's where we move to the triage call. If they say something like makes sense, then you might ask them, do you have any questions? I'm happy to give you more insight if you want. If they ask questions, you can then move on to phase 5. But if not, I've had some people who they're like, yeah, it makes sense. Do you have any questions? No, that's clear. And then I'll say, okay, cool. So what are your next steps? Because some people want to feel like or seem like they have it all figured out, or maybe they're a little skeptical. So great, what are your next steps? And then you're probably going to be back to phase 3. They might say, well, I'm just going to keep going to the gym. And then boom, back to phase 3. You need to disillusion them and then move back to the paradigm shift. All right. So moving on to phase 5, this is where we want to move to a triage call for anybody that's got a little bit higher ticket of an offer. So anybody who's in the 200 plus range right now. So like Lucinda, for example, Blake, for example, you probably have the ability to do a triage call. So this is going to be like a 10 to 15 minute call where you just quickly get on the phone with them, see whether or not you qualify even deeper, see whether or not you can help them, whether or not they're somebody you want to get onto an initial call with. And then from there, dig, and then let them know, hey, I'm not going to be able to give you everything in this 10-minute call, obviously. If you'd like me to dig a little bit deeper, then we can do that on whatever the name of your initial call is. See if they're willing to, send them an application for it, get them on that call. So the way that you make that transition on social media is you say something like, cool, if you're open to it, we could dig in on a quick 10-minute call so I can understand more about where you're at and give you my thoughts. And anybody who wants to start using this triage call, let me know. I can go a little bit deeper with you or do a training on that, what that looks like. Otherwise, if you are charging less than $200 per month right now, which will change, I promise you that, then you're going to transition this to your initial call. So cool, if you're open to it, we could dig on a 30-minute, whatever your call name is, so I can understand more about where you're at and give you my thoughts about next steps. Then when you get on that call, you can pre-frame that you have an offer. People are probably going to understand that. Or you could say something like, cool, like if they ask you questions, cool, it'd take 10,000 words typing to answer your questions. If you're open to it, we could dig in on a quick 10-minute call, name your call, whatever it happens, so I can understand more about where you're at and give you my thoughts. And then an optional thing that you can do, if people seem like they're a little skeptical about you, you can say, promise I've got nothing to pitch. That's only if you're going to a triage call, because if you're on the initial call, you do have something to pitch. That's why it's optional. All right. So from there, you schedule in your 10-minute call, your initial call, qualify whether you can help them. If you can help them, get them on your initial call. All right. So the thing about this is that it's really a framework and not necessarily a script. You can use these scripts and test it out and see how it works for you. But really the framework is get some rapport, qualify whether or not you can help them, see what their goals are, see what their pain is. You need to dig there, be a human here. The conversation won't necessarily linearly follow this path. Once you figure that out, dig, disillusion, paradigm shift, and get them on a call if it seems like you can help them. And again, just like with sales, pull offers. You don't have to offer this call to every single person just because you open a messenger conversation. And another thing that I want to throw out there that I didn't put into this presentation is that when you're just starting out and you've got very few conversations you've opened up outbound, you're going to feel like it's so important for you to actually be able to get to the phase where you dig and disillusion, paradigm shift, and pitch. But the thing is, until you've had, tons of conversations, I'm talking like 50 conversations on social media, you're probably not going to have a ton of people who are exact avatars right in front of you. Because the thing is, you might send out some friend requests or some cold messages or messages, in general, and people aren't necessarily going to respond. So until you've done about 50 outreach, you're going to not really have the best idea yet about how to do this. So you need to get the reps in and practice, because this becomes easier, and then you become better at identifying your ideal clients. You don't have to place so much importance on every single conversation you're having when you start out if you only have a few conversations going.